idea that in post-war American culture, every generation gets their turn. They get to be the star, they get to be the center. Their nostalgia matters more than somebody else's.
Yeah.
And that like generation, the what I think is called Generation X, and to some degree even millennials, feel like they never got it, right? Like we're just going to paper over that whole era. We're going to go from, the oldest president ever to somebody who's 37 years old. And all that other stuff will never get to be in the spotlight. It will never be part of nostalgic culture.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't Brad Pitt say that in Fight Club? Literally, he says our parents.
Probably.
He says I've seen the movie too many fucking times. He says, our parents' generation had a Great Depression and World War. We have no world wars. We have no Great Depression. Our Great Depression is our lives, which is such a Gen X thing to say.
That solipsistic thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's exactly what you're saying here, which is the sense that there was this sense that like, oh, we're a generation that doesn't have anything like big that happened to us that is like a spotlight on us, or almost like the end of history feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Or we don't get to have it. It happened because it always happens. That's how history is, right? We had 9/11. Yeah. We had basically a Great Depression. But we don't treat them yet as products or nostalgia, right? It's much not that capital. I'm not going to say you can't do it, but we've yet, the Great Depression and World War II got sold back almost immediately, right? Mm-hmm. The trauma, all those things are woven into post-war popular culture in a way that you can't really pull out. And I don't know, and maybe we're just too close, right? Or I might be so bad at this, but I wonder if that's like the moment we're waiting for is like, when does blank, because we had like that Richard Jewell movie, right? And I thought, oh, okay, like some of this stuff, some of our traumas or these events are coming back up in a way that maybe they just hadn't. It just took longer because of boomers, right? Like there just wasn't the space in the culture for these things. Yeah. Or is it just the fragmentation, right? That like we are actually experiencing it, but we don't know it, right? That like we're in our, I hate silo. I don't think that's actually true. I think it's more flat, but generally speaking, we are not all sharing in the kind of national media culture like we used to.
I think that's key. And that makes the generational discourse make even less sense in some ways.
Yeah, and exactly.
Unless you say that like the coherent experience of our generation is a totally chaotic experience of reality, and one that's mitigated by digital content that completely disrupted any sense of coherent narrative. I mean, whether it be generation or whatever, but it's also maybe revealing what you and I have been talking about, which is never really there in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I tell students all the time. Their favorite thing to say is, God, we live in the most blank moment, right? It's like, do we?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you think you do because you're living now, but like ask a guy in 1888 who reads 14 newspapers a day.
Right.
He probably feels like I'm inundated with media and I can't make sense of it. He feels overwhelmed. He can't make sense of it. There's too much going on. It's all too fast paced, So like those kinds of statements to me
I love that
ultimately
stuff.
like useless, right? It's like, okay, so what are we really saying? What you're saying is you can't make sense of it, or that you experience it a certain way. What does that tell us about you? It doesn't have to be a comparison, right? That's not the only way to make meaning out of it.